Yo, what's up? My name's Patrouski, and this is probably one of the most important guides I'll ever make for PokeMMO. Today, I'm going to try my best to teach you guys everything that I know about rare shiny hunting in PokeMMO, specifically egg hunting. Now, if you don't know, egg shunting or egg hunting usually refers to breeding a Pokemon over and over and over again with Dittos or other Pokemon to eventually produce a shiny result, and it is not something you should aim to do or want to do in my opinion. Egg hunting is only reserved for the rarest of Pokemon and really reserved for the top 1% of the player base because it is extremely expensive and takes a ton of time. Egg hunting is probably the most difficult shiny hunt in the game aside from something like Shedinja. Now we'll get deeper into the actual numbers of the cost and the time it takes on average here in a sec, but for an example, I've spent around 90 million Pokeyen at the moment on my current Cranidos hunt, and I've only achieved around 18,000 encounters to give you a quick idea. It's also important to note that every number and everything we're going to be discussing today is assuming an average rate. We're assuming you will get that shiny at 1 out of 30,000. Now, obviously, it's not going to be the case. You know, it could be, you could get it really early, you could get it at 5,000 encounters, you could get it at 150,000 encounters. Anything could happen with RNG, but whenever we talk about shiny hunts on this channel, we have to assume the average because it's the only way you can mathematically stay sane. Alright, enough scaring people off. If you're one of the brave gamers who still wants to attempt this challenge even after everything I've said, let's go ahead and jump into the requirements and what you'll need for this hunt. Now, you're obviously going to need a ton of money and time. We'll get into exact numbers here in a quick sec. You're also going to need around 300 to 360 of the base Pokemon you want to breed. So, for example, I would be achieving around 300 to 360 Cranidos at first to start. Once you get that base amount, you never need to actually buy more of that Pokemon. You will just need to buy around 30,000 Dittos on average. But that base set of Pokemon, that 300 Cranidos, is usually going to cost you around 500,000 to 2 million Pokeyen. It really depends on what Pokemon you're shiny breeding for. And it's important to remember that the end of this journey, the end of this goal, is that rare shiny that you want so much. That shiny Charizard, that shiny Metagross, the Salamence, the Chansey, whatever it may be, that's the end goal. It's important to keep that in mind whenever we consider these costs and keep you motivated. Now, 30,000 Dittos is going to end up costing you around 100 million Pokeyen on average. That's calced at 3,333 Pokeyen per Ditto, or around 200k Pokeyen per Ditto box. Sometimes you'll end up paying more, around 220k, so it's important to keep that into a bit of a range, maybe 100 mil, maybe 100 to 110 mil Pokeyen spent for all 30,000 Dittos. If you don't know what a Ditto box is, it's essentially 60 Dittos traded via player interaction to avoid the GTL fee, but I will link my full Ditto box explained video down in the description below. You're also going to need around 30,000 Pokeballs, which is going to end up costing you around 6 mil Pokeyen. Now that leaves our total cost at around 110 to 120 mil. Since you do have to factor in, you might have to pay more for Ditto boxes at current times. So 120 million or so is the average cost. Let's go ahead and talk about time. Now, this time isn't even factoring in all of the time it took to make that 120 million Pokeyen, so you might also want to factor that in after. But let's break it down. There's around 4 main things that suck up your time during an egg hunt. So first of all, hatching. Hatching is probably the most time-consuming thing of anything in an egg hunt. It's going to end up taking you around 6 hours or so to hatch a full batch of 360 eggs. Now, it is important to note that we do this hunt in batches due to shiny charming and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that in a quick sec, but for now, just stay with me. People usually do this kind of hunt in batches because of PC space and shiny charms, but you do end up spending around 500 hours hatching eggs, which is essentially just sitting in your party with a flame body Pokemon in the lead and donator status active to make the hatching as quick as possible, and then just AFKing. Eggs hatch based off of time in PokeMMO, not off of steps or anything else. So it's simply just AFK time, play another game, load up an anime, do something of the sort to occupy your time. So that's the first 500 hours, and that's the most relaxing part of the hunt. Now, you're also going to have to spend 85 hours making the eggs, and while 85 hours may not sound like much time, that is going to be the most intensive, mechanically difficult, and truly challenging part of the hunt, and I'm not overestimating when I say that. Making eggs for 1 hour is truly mechanically intensive and will actually put wear and strain on your fingers and hands. I'm 24, I'm not super old, not super young. I end up having to take breaks between certain egg hunts, or I can't do it every day. If you egg hunt one batch every day, you're going to end up straining your hand too much, and it's going to cause you pain. It's important to take breaks, play smart, play healthy. Out of every video game that I've ever played in my entire life, nothing has hurt my hands more than doing 1 hour of egg making in PokeMMO. I'm not joking. It's seriously intense. Make sure to get those efficient hours in. Now, before you start making your eggs, you're going to have to spend some time buying Ditto boxes and achieving those Ditto boxes and building up your supply of Pokemon. Now, in my opinion, I calculated this at around 20 minutes to find each Ditto box, which is a really huge guesstimate, and I'm not going to lie, sometimes it's going to take you days to find Ditto boxes. Sometimes I'll be able to find 5 Ditto boxes in one trade and get that done super easy in 20 minutes. Sometimes I won't be able to buy a Ditto box for 3 days or so. It's super varied, and it's really hard to put an actual number on this. I just kind of did 20 minutes, so you can kind of take this as hearsay. It's just really hard in general to calc a proper time on an egg hunt, and we'll get to that more at the end, but I counted out around 200 hours of buying Ditto boxes. So right now we have 500 hours of hatching eggs, 85 hours of making eggs, 200 hours of buying Ditto boxes, putting us at 785 hours. Next, we have 215 hours of guesstimated prep time. Now, this is the hardest thing to guesstimate of probably all the numbers. It's time spent organizing boxes, lining up breeders, claiming stuff from your mail or scouting the GTL, making extra Pokeyen, etc. Maybe even restocking up on Pokeballs or Shiny Charms or donator statuses here and there. Now, that does put us at 1,000 hours total, but in my opinion and from my personal experience, this number is honestly pretty low, and this was a really difficult thing to guesstimate in the grand scheme of things. I think the most important thing to take away from this calculation time number is that from my anecdotal observations, from my experience, it usually takes players around 6 to 18 months of average daily play per egg shunt to complete and finally get that shiny they wanted. The majority of players never actually finish a shunt and go on to never get the shiny Pokemon they wanted. They drain all of their Pokeyen, spend all of their time, and then end up either burning out or quitting the game. It's only natural, so it's important to play smart, take breaks, be healthy about everything, and be responsible. Play responsible. Alright, now that the boring math has been covered, it's time to get back to actual item requirements and things you might need to help you during your shunt. Also, if you don't know, if I haven't already mentioned, whenever I say shunt, that simply means shiny hunt. But there's 2 hugely important things that you're going to need during your shunt, even a lot more, but these are probably the 2 of the biggest ones: Shiny Charm and Donator Status. Each of these things boost your shiny rate by 10%, but in very different ways. Shiny Charm costs around 300k Pokeyen at the moment on the GTL, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, around 300k at the moment. Prices may have varied by the time this video releases. And Shiny Charm increases your rate by 10% for only 1 hour. Now, you can also be in a link, and other people in that link will receive a 5% boost, but if you're the one egging, I definitely recommend you be the one who pops that charm. You want that extra 5%. Now, let's talk about Donator Status, a much more expensive solution, but you should be using both at the same time, and Donator actually ends up being more efficient price-wise over the long term, since you're getting a 10% boost for 7 days. Now, a huge distinction between these items is that Donator Status ticks down its time even while you're offline. You can see up here in the top left-hand corner, Shiny Charm will actually not tick down if you're logged off. Now, Donator Statuses are much more expensive, but come in a couple different forms. 7-day Donator Status, there's also the 15-day, I believe, and there's also the 30-day, costing different prices based on their variation of length. 30 days is usually the most efficient to get. Now, I do understand, however, uploading 3.6 or 3.5 mil capital at the start to get this can be a pretty big investment, although if you're doing an egg shunt, I would hope that you can already, very easily have this sort of funds. Hugely important note that even though I'm recommending Shiny Charm and Donator Status, I'm not including them in my calculations today since it makes things way too complicated. Everything is calculated off of the 1 out of 30,000 shiny rate, even though Shiny Charm plus Donator Status will end up making your shiny rate around 1 out of 24,300. Now, I did actually run some calculations during the making of this video, and it turns out that using Shiny Charm and Donator Status is around 20 to 40 mil or so more expensive. It's actually more expensive to use these, even considering the lower rate. Now, it does save you a lot of time. 6,000 eggs or so of time is a really big deal. So it is important to understand that you're usually paying more money for faster time, and time is money. So whether that's worth it or not is up to you, but let's go ahead and keep going on. Now, the next thing we have to talk about is PC space, and PC space can get disgustingly expensive. As you can see here, I have around 13 boxes at the moment dedicated to Cranidos, and then I have all my other Pokemon squished into my last 3 boxes or so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actually. So you start, I believe, with 12, and you can get up to 22 boxes total. However, each new box requires a PC expansion drive, which is quite expensive. At the current time of recording, PC expansion drives go for around 2 to 2.2 million Pokeyen. Paying that much for 60 spaces, just one more box, can be a bit brutal. This is why it's also super important to have alt accounts here to be able to mail your Pokemon to those alt accounts if you don't need access to them immediately. Now, sadly enough, this is actually still all of the Pokemon I need in my boxes to have immediate access to, even after mailing so many Pokemon to my alt accounts. The longer you've been playing PokeMMO, the more difficult sort of acquiring this PC space is going to be, because you're going to have more Pokemon that you're not really willing to get rid of. The main thing to keep in mind is that I definitely recommend having at least 10 boxes dedicated to the hunt. But I would really aim to get around 12 to 14, especially as your breeding speeds and mechanics start to improve. Okay, here's a quick and easy one, a flame body Pokemon. There's a ton of examples of this: Chandelure, Magmar, Litwick, and stuff like that. There's a ton of Magcargo, I believe. A ton of different flame body Pokemon. Just check out Bulbapedia and see which Pokemon have access to it. You should have flame body in the lead of your party whenever you're hatching eggs. It just makes things, I believe, 50% faster or something absurd. It's much, much faster. Donator status also does increase your hatching rate by 10%. Now, the next thing that you're going to absolutely need, this is a requirement, I promise you, is a little difficult to explain. It's something called custom strings. Now, custom strings are essentially a notepad document edited to edit the PokeMMO dialogue. And essentially what it's going to do is it's going to save you a massive amount of time. I can go ahead and show you quickly here. So if I have custom strings off, if I have default settings, this is what it looks like when I talk to the daycare man. He has to go through all of this dialogue. He talks about a trade. He talks about giving him 2 Pokemon he gives an "Are you sure" thing. There's a lot of dialogue there. This is what it looks like when on custom strings. If I go to my settings, if I go to language, and I select the custom strings that I have installed, now unfortunately I cannot share these custom strings. These are private to me and my team. I'm not allowed to share them. I will be linking a guide links down below, and I will try my best to keep some sort of version of updated strings in the description, but it's unlikely. You might have to go to my Discord or go to some other resource to find your own custom strings. So now I have the custom strings installed and apply. Let's go ahead and click him and see. He just says breed ? And then you say yes. That's it. I want to go through slowly both of the dialogue, so I'm not showing favoritism, because I did kind of slowly go through the first one, but just slowly going through, you see breed ? Yes. And then it pops up. It's very, very fast. This will quite literally double the speed of the amount of eggs, maybe even triple how many eggs you're able to make in 1 hour. And being able to increase the speed at which you make eggs during your hunt is quite literally everything. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you money. It's going to be absolutely crucial, which is why honing your mechanics is also going to be crucial. And that gives us our final requirement, which is simply decent mechanics. Now, you might not have decent mechanics at the very start. It's just going to take practice, and that's pretty much all it comes down to. So make sure to practice, and eventually you'll see yourself start to improve. Maybe you'll be able to consume 10 boxes of Pokemon and make 5 boxes of eggs the first time, and then maybe you'll move on to 11 or 12, or eventually, maybe one day you'll be able to do 14 or 15 if you're a godlike player like Kuroshi. Alright, now we have covered all of the requirements before you start, but there is one last quick note that I want to say. I encourage people, and I always say to people, you should at least prep half of the money up front. I know this grind is a lot. I know it's going to take a long time. I know you can make money along the way, but I would definitely recommend not starting an egg shunt until you have at least around 50 to 60 mil Pokeyen in cash in pure liquid form. Then it's okay. Then it's safe. If you start earlier than this, that's where things get a little messy. You're going to end up running out of cash, running out of capital. You're going to end up stranded, and it's a really shitty position to be in. Now, you can still do your daily gym runs, and I encourage you to always do that during an egg hunt. Some people choose to actually opt out of doing your daily gym run. They just want to focus on egg hunting. Definitely start with at least 120 mil if you're one of those people. I know that's a huge ask. 60 mil Pokeyen is a monstrous amount of Pokeyen to many, many people. It's even a ton of Pokeyen to me. I don't think I've ever had that much in liquid form. I've only had around 40 to 45 mil or so, but it's a lot. It's important. This hunt is important, and rare Pokemon are difficult to get, and they're rare for a reason. Alright, but now that all of the intro and everything is done, it's time to finally start. Kind of. We have step 1. preparation. Now this is the part of the shunt where you'll be preparing to do your 1 hour of breeding, because you don't want to waste time during your shiny charm to run around or do anything like that. You want to have everything prepared. You want to be able to focus up, hone your mechanics, and just focus on breeding. This is the stage where you're going to be buying Ditto boxes, buying shiny charms and donator status when needed, making sure your custom strings are installed, and most importantly, making sure you have Pokeballs in your inventory. I can't tell you how many times I've started an hour of shiny charming only to realize I only have around 200 Pokeballs in my party or my inventory when I really need around 400 or so to be safe. You don't want to be that guy who's rushing in the middle of his own charm over to a Poke Center to rush and buy some Pokeballs, wasting some time. It may not be the biggest time waste in the world, but it's a little embarrassing, and every single second matters. Every little bit of time is an extra egg. Now let me go ahead and show you what my PC personally looks like when I am fully ready to start an egg shunt or an hour of egg hunting. So this is my egg shunting setup. As you can see, I have a ton of boxes here dedicated right now to Cranidos, and 30 spaces in each box are going to be dedicated to Cranidos, and then 30 spaces in each box are going to be dedicated to the Pokemon I'm going to be used to rebreed that Cranidos. Now with female Cranidos, I can use male monster egg group Pokemon like Whismurs or Loudreds or whatever. Doesn't really matter, but with male Cranidos, I do have to use Dittos, and that's going to be the main thing you're going to be wanting to using over and over and over again. It's just a ton of Dittos, and I can stroll through my boxes here and show you guys, this is the level of commitment, this is the level of space that I would recommend preparing and using at least like 10 boxes probably, but getting closer to 12 to 14 gets really intense and really ideal. You need this level of box space, this level of Pokemon, this level of Dittos to be able to commit to something as severe as an egg shunt. Now, once you're fully prepared, we can move on to step 2, which is actually making the eggs. It's also important to quickly note that you should always egg hunt in Unova. It's actually the fastest time between the breeder and the PC, which is super important when every second counts. Alright, now once it's time to start actually breeding, you want your screen and inventory to look a little like this. So I actually leave my party with a shiny Pokemon because the game will not allow you to accidentally breed that shiny Pokemon with another Pokemon or a Ditto or something of the sort. So you can't actually mistake that breed. So if you lead your party with something like a Chandelure for Flame Body or something like that, you might actually accidentally end up breeding it with a Ditto, which is something you don't want to risk. Now, you also want to click this little arrow thing on your Pokemon party and slide it over to the left as much as you can to have it line up with the breeding center like this, because you want the clicks to be as fast as possible. Efficiency is the name of the game with egg shunting. You want to be able to get maximum value out of your donator status and shiny charm, which should be popped as you're breeding. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop shiny charm and try not to embarrass myself and keep at a decent speed to show you guys what it should look like. Now I haven't bred in quite a while, but hopefully it's okay. Make sure to have custom strings like we talked about. Make sure to have donator status, shiny charm, inventory like this. There's a lot of setup. Have your PC set up, everything like that. So let's go ahead and pop the charm. Immediately start using our control click to abuse fast clicked animations. So as you can see, custom strings make this a game changer. Want to make sure you're banking as quick as possible. So you want to make sure you're at the Unova PC/daycare as well. Make sure you're running. That'll make it as quick as possible. Try to control click. You're going to make mistakes like this. Once again, I have to warm up. Haven't done this in quite a long time. You just want to try to be as fast as possible. And a lot of this is going to come down to how fast you can be and how many boxes of eggs you can make in 1 hour. It's tough to do this while recording. This is probably one of the most, if not probably the most mechanically challenging things in PokeMMO. Being efficient with egg breeding and trying to squeeze out as many eggs as you possibly can within 1 hour is one of the most challenging things, but also interesting things in all of PokeMMO. Alright, now after your hour of egg breeding, you'll wind up with two things: carpal tunnel and a nice PC full of eggs, which now it's time to go ahead and move on to step 3, which is the hatching process. Now it's hugely important to note that whether a Pokemon is shiny or not is decided and determined upon egg creation, not upon egg hatch, which is why you pop the shiny charm during the creation of the eggs and not during the hatch. Now there is a surprising amount of information to talk about and a lot of strategy to talk about when hatching your eggs. First things first, it's important to have donator status active during this because that does increase your hatch time, and a flame body Pokemon in the lead of your party like we've already talked about. But it's also important to note that hatching is based off of time and not steps or any other mechanic. So the best way to hatch Pokemon is to have a flame body in the front of your party and then have 5 eggs in your party as such and just sit and wait. You can sit in the PC like this as long as they're in your party, and that's totally fine. And then after X amount of time, they will hatch. Now, the time an egg takes to hatch is slightly dependent on the species and rarity of the Pokemon. I believe my Cranidos eggs take around 3 minutes and 50 seconds, 3 minutes and 45 seconds or so with donator status and flame body per inventory, per 5 eggs. Eggs will not hatch in your PC. They do have to be in your party. That is a common question that I get. It's also important to note that a hatched shiny is not guaranteed a 1x31 IV like a wild shiny would be. It just comes out with the IVs that it would as if it were bred normally. Now, if you care about getting good IVs and breeding up the IVs on your rare shiny Pokemon, you can check out my shiny breeding guide linked in the description below. It's also important to note that you cannot tell whether the eggs are shiny or not, or whether the eggs contain a shiny or not until you hatch them. So you do have to go through the entire process. But funnily enough, you actually can go ahead and check the IVs. I don't think you can do this with nature either, but you can see which of them have like 20 plus speed IV, which is kind of funny. Shout out to T-Nums for that piece of information. I didn't even know that was a thing, and I thought it was pretty interesting. But then after that, it's pretty much just hatching until they're all done, and once you've completed all of them, you'll either have your shiny or you won't, and if you don't, it's time to move on to step 4, which is rinse and repeat. That's right, this was just the first batch. You're just getting started. Welcome to egg shiny hunting. But also, if you did just complete your first batch, congratulations. It's not an easy thing, and I wish you the best of luck on your shiny Pokemon. Maybe you'll even get it in your first batch or your first couple. But I truly hope this video was helpful today. I spent a lot of time on it, scripting and editing, which I don't usually do for all my videos. Since I do have to upload a video every single day, it becomes a bit time consuming. However, if you enjoyed today's content, please make sure to leave a like on it. It helps me tremendously. And if you want to see daily PokeMMO content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and maybe even ring the notification bell. I also stream here and on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. EST if you want to check that out for some more fun, live stream type content. My Discord is also linked down below, which is probably one of the best resources to learn about PokeMMO at an incredible pace, and it's also a really cool community. If you don't have many friends who play PokeMMO, you can make some new ones. Now, if my content has helped you enough to warrant it, or maybe even offered you enough hours of entertainment, you can also go above and beyond and give back to the channel financially via YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subscriptions, or PayPal and Venmo, which are all links down below. It's never needed, but it does really help me out a ton and lets me focus on trying to make the best content possible. Thank you guys lastly for your time. I know how important that is. As a shiny hunter myself, I really value my time, even though I spend so many thousands of it egg shunting Pokemon. It's something I really care about. So thank you all so much. Have a fantastic day. I wish you the best of luck on all your PokeMMO shunts, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Yo, if you're watching this, that means you watched the entire video. So first things first, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And if your name is on this list, that means you go above and beyond and support the channel and allow me to do what I do every single day. Thank you so much and have a great day.